Why don't you flee, human? Part 1. The mining station Horizon's Edge floated in the cold darkness of space like a forgotten toy. It was old and ugly, built from cheap metal and desperate hope. 12 people lived there, working the asteroid fields for minerals that would make other people rich. They were nobody special, just workers trying to survive another day. Tahoe was one of them. He was 34 years old, with a plain face and tired eyes. He had been a soldier once, back when there were still battles to fight. Now he fixed broken machines and drank bad coffee. He did not talk much about his past. The other workers thought he was boring. They were wrong. On the day everything changed, Tahoe was sitting in the lower engineering deck. He was alone with the hum of the reactor, reading an old book on his tablet. The book was about a man who sailed across an ocean on Earth hundreds of years ago. Tahoe liked stories about people who refused to give up. Then the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The station shook like a dying animal. Tahoe put down his tablet and listened. He heard explosions. He heard gunfire. He heard people screaming through the communication system. Then he heard nothing at all. The Valari had come. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Valari. They were an old species, thousands of years older than humans. They had silver skin and black eyes that showed no white. They could read minds and feel emotions from far away. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and killed billions of beings. When the Valari came, you had two choices. You could run, or you could die. Most people chose to run. It never helped. Tahoe did not run. He walked to the small kitchen area near the reactor and made himself a cup of synthetic coffee. The machine was old and the coffee tasted like metal, but Tahoe drank it anyway. Then he sat down on a crate and waited. He did not wait long. The door exploded inward. Valari soldiers poured through like water, their weapons glowing with blue light. They were tall and thin, moving with a grace that seemed wrong for living things. Behind them came their commander. Her name was Una, though Tahoe did not know this yet. She was tall even for a Valari, with silver skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. Her black eyes were like holes in the universe. She wore armor that fit her body like a second skin, and she carried a blade at her hip that had killed more beings than she could remember. Una had done this many times before. She knew what to expect. The prey would be hiding. The prey would be crying. The prey would beg for mercy that she would not give. This was the natural order of things. The strong consumed the weak. The Valari consumed everyone. But when she walked into the engineering deck, she found something she did not expect. The human was sitting on a crate, drinking from a metal cup. He looked up at her with calm eyes. He did not shake. He did not cry. He did not even stand up. "Hello," Tahoe said. "Do you want some coffee?" Una stopped walking. Her soldiers looked at each other in confusion. This was not how prey behaved. This was not right. "Stand up, human," Una commanded. Her voice was cold and beautiful, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Tahoe took another sip of his coffee. Then he stood up slowly, like he had all the time in the world. "The coffee is not very good," he said, "but it is hot. That is something." Una reached out with her mind. She could feel the emotions of every living thing around her. Her soldiers felt pride and bloodlust. The dying humans throughout the station felt terror and despair. But this human felt almost nothing. Just a quiet sadness, like an old wound that had healed long ago. "You are not afraid," Una said. It was not a question. "No," Tahoe agreed. "I am not. Why?" Tahoe looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were dark brown, ordinary human eyes. But something in them made Una feel strange. Something she had never felt before. "That is a long story," Tahoe said. and I think you are too busy to hear it. Yuna should have killed him then. That was the protocol. Humans were weak. Humans were prey. Humans were not worth keeping alive unless they had useful information. But Yuna did not kill him. Instead, she gestured to her soldiers. "Take him to the ship," she ordered. "Put him in a cell. I will question him later." The soldiers grabbed Taiho roughly. They pushed him toward the door, expecting him to struggle. He did not struggle. He walked calmly between them, still holding his cup of coffee. As they passed the reactor console, Taiho glanced back. Just for a moment. And he smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. But Yuna caught it. She saw something in that smile that made her stomach feel cold. It was not the smile of a man who had given up. It was the smile of a man who knew something she did not. Yuna looked at the reactor console. Everything seemed normal. The display showed regular readings. The lights blinked in their usual patterns. There was nothing wrong, but Yuna could not shake the feeling that she had missed something important. Later, on her ship, she would look at the records of the station. She would learn that the human's name was Taiho. She would learn that he had been a soldier in the Human Defense Force before the wars ended. She would learn that his family had died when the Valari burned the colony on New Busan. She would learn many things about this quiet human who drank bad coffee in the face of death. But she would not understand him. Not yet. The silent blade left the mining station behind and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Level. In the holding cells, Taiho sat in the corner and closed his eyes. He thought about his wife, Unji, who would love to sing old songs. He thought about his daughter, Hannah, who had just learned to write her name. He thought about the fire that had taken them both. Then he thought about the message he had sent before the Valari came. A short message, hidden in the station's emergency broadcast. Just 3 words. They found us. Somewhere in the darkness of space, other humans were listening. Other humans were waiting. Other humans were coming. Taiho smiled again in the darkness of his cell. The Valari thought they had caught prey. They did not understand. They had caught something far more dangerous. They had caught bait. Why don't you flee, human? Part 2. The interrogation room was white and cold. The walls were smooth metal that reflected light in strange ways. There was one chair in the middle of the room, bolted to the floor. Taiho sat in that chair with his hands bound behind his back. He had been sitting there for 6 hours. Yuna stood in front of him, watching. She had not spoken yet. She was waiting for him to break. Every other prisoner she had taken had broken by now. They would cry. They would beg. They would offer anything to make the waiting stop. Taiho just sat there with his eyes closed, breathing slowly. He looked like he was sleeping. "You are testing my patience, human," Yuna finally said. Taiho opened his eyes. "I was thinking about a poem," he said. "My daughter used to recite it. About a flower that grows through stone. I cannot remember the last line." Yuna felt a flash of anger. She stepped forward and struck him across the face. The blow was hard enough to split his lip. Blood ran down his chin and dripped onto his shirt. Taiho licked the blood from his lip. "That was rude," he said calmly. "You will tell me what I want to know," Yuna said. "The locations of your hidden colonies. The positions of your fleet. The names of your leaders." "I am just an engineer," Taiho said. "I fix broken machines. I do not know any secrets." "You lie. I can feel it. Can you?" Taiho tilted his head. "What else can you feel?" Yuna reached out with her telepathy again. She pushed against his mind, trying to break through his defenses. But there were no defenses. There was just emptiness, like trying to grab smoke with her fingers. "What are you?" she whispered. "I am just a human," Taiho said. "Nothing special. The interrogation continued for 3 days. Yuna used pain. She used cold. She used hunger and thirst. She used drugs that made other species scream their secrets. Nothing worked. Taiho endured everything with the same quiet patience. He answered questions about his name, his job, his favorite food. But he never gave her anything useful. On the 3rd day, another prisoner was brought to the room. Her name was Ji-woo. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and frightened eyes. She had been the medic on the mining station. Her arm was broken and her face was bruised. "Perhaps you need motivation," Yuna said. She gestured to one of her soldiers, who pointed a weapon at Ji-woo's head. "Tell me what I want to know, or she dies." Ji-woo started crying. "Please," she begged. "Please, I do not want to die." Taiho looked at the young woman. His expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something dark and cold. "You want to know about humans," he said slowly. "Fine, I will tell you something true." Yuna held up her hand. The soldier lowered his weapon. "Speak." "Humans are not special," Taiho said. "We are not the strongest species. We are not the smartest. We do not have telepathy or claws or natural armor. We are soft and weak, and we die easily." "I know all this," Yuna said impatiently. "But you do not understand what it means." Taiho leaned forward in his chair. "Every species in the galaxy runs from the Volari. Every species begs. You have conquered 1,000 worlds because everyone is afraid of you." Yuna smiled coldly. "Fear is wisdom. We are the apex predators of the galaxy." "No," Taiho said. "You are just old. You have been killing for 3,000 years. You think this makes you powerful. But humans have been dying for 200,000 years. And we are still here." Yuna frowned. "What is your point?" Taiho's voice dropped low. "We have seen worse than you. We have killed worse than you. We have survived ice ages that lasted 10,000 years. We have survived plagues that killed half our population. We have survived wars where we burned our own cities with nuclear fire. We watched our birth planet become poison, and we still did not die." He stood up suddenly. The chains on his wrists snapped like they were made of paper. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Yuna held up her hand again. "You ask me why I do not flee," Taiho said. His voice was still calm, but now there was something beneath the calm. Something that made Yuna's skin feel cold. "You ask me why I do not beg." He stepped toward her. Yuna found herself stepping back. She, who had never retreated from anyone, was stepping back from an armed human prisoner. "I will tell you," Taiho said. "We do not run because we have already lost everything. We do not beg because begging has never saved us. Every time the universe tried to kill us, we survived. Every time we fell, we got back up. You think you are hunters. You think we are prey. You are wrong." He stopped, close enough that she could see the dried blood on his chin. His dark eyes looked into her black ones. "We are not prey. We are something worse. We are survivors. And survivors do not run. Survivors wait. Survivors watch. Survivors learn. And when the time is right," he smiled. It was the same smile from the mining station. The smile of a man who knew something she did not. Survivors bite back. The room was silent. Yuna could hear her own heartbeat fast and loud. She had lived for 200 years. She had conquered dozens of worlds. She had killed thousands of beings with her own hands. She had never been afraid, thought she was afraid now. "Take him back to his cell," she ordered. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "And the woman too. Keep them both alive." The soldiers grabbed Taiho and dragged him away. He did not resist. He had said what he needed to say. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She sat in her quarters and accessed the ship's historical database. She searched for information about humans. What she found made her blood run cold. The records showed everything. The ice ages, the plagues, the wars, the nuclear fires, the collapse of their home planet, the desperate flight to the stars. Every time they should have died. Every time they did not die. But the worst part was the numbers. In the 3,000 years of Valari history, they had lost maybe 1 million soldiers in all their wars combined. Humans had lost millions, billions, and they were still fighting. Yuna stared at the screen until the artificial dawn came. She thought about Taiho's smile. She thought about his calm voice and his empty mind and his chains. That broke like paper, she thought. About what it meant to fight a species that had been learning to survive extinction for 200,000 years. And for the first time in her long life, Commander Yuna of the Valari Empire began to doubt. Why did you flee, human? Part 3. 7 days passed on the Silent Blade. The ship moved through the darkness of space like a silver knife, carrying its cargo of prisoners toward the Valari homeworld. There, the humans would be processed. Some would become slaves. Some would become examples. None would remain free. But something strange was happening on the ship. Yuna visited Taiho every day. At first, she told herself it was for interrogation. She needed information. She needed to understand the enemy. But the truth was simpler and more dangerous. She was curious. Taiho never refused to talk to her. He did not give her military secrets, but he gave her something else. He gave her stories. Tell me about your planet, Yuna said one day. She sat outside his cell, watching him through the energy barrier. Tell me about Earth. Earth is dead, Taiho said. Or dying. We poisoned it with our wars and our factories. The air became bad. The water became bad. The plants and animals started disappearing. We knew we had to leave or die with it, so you ran away. We survived. Taiho shook his head. Running away and surviving are different things. Running away means giving up. Surviving means doing whatever you must to keep going. We built ships with our bare hands. We launched them into the dark without knowing if they would work. Most of them failed. Millions died in the cold between stars. And you call this strength? Yuna asked. I call it love, Taiho said simply. We did not do it for ourselves. We did it for our children, for their children, for all the generations that would come after. Every parent who put their child on a colony ship knew they would never see that child again. They did it anyway, because that is what humans do. We suffer so that others do not have to. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. The Valari did not think this way. The Valari believed in strength and power and conquest. The weak served the strong. The strong took what they wanted. There was no sacrifice. There was only victory or death. You are strange creatures, she finally said. We are survivors, Taiho replied. Strange is how we stay alive. In another part of the ship, Jiwoo was healing. Her broken arm had been set by a Valari medic named Sora. This was unusual. Valari did not normally care for human prisoners. But Sora was different. Sora was young for a Valari, only 80 years old. She had silver skin like all her kind, but her black eyes were softer somehow, less empty. She had joined the military because she wanted to see the galaxy. She had not expected to see so much death. Why do you help me? Jiwoo asked one day. She sat on the small bed in her cell, watching Sora change her bandages. Because you are hurt, Sora said. Is that not reason enough? Your people killed my friends. They destroyed my home. Sora's hands stopped moving. I know, I am sorry. Sorry? Jiwoo laughed bitterly. Does sorry bring back the dead? No. Sora looked down at her silver hands. Nothing brings back the dead. I learned that when I was young. My sister died in a training accident. No one said sorry. No one cared. I decided then that I would be different. I would care, even when others did not. Jiwoo studied the young Valari's face. She saw something there that she did not expect. She saw pain. She saw doubt. She saw the same questions that haunted her own mind. You are not like the others, Jiwoo said quietly. No, Sora agreed. I am not. I think that is why I am still alone. The days continued to pass. Yuna kept visiting Taiho. She listened to his stories about human history. Stories about wars and plagues and disasters. Stories about people who kept fighting when there was no hope left. Stories about love and sacrifice and stubborn refusal to die. Tell me about your family, she said one evening. Taeho was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft. My wife was named Yoonji. She was a teacher. She taught children how to read and write. She believed that knowledge was the most important thing in the universe. She said that as long as people could read, they could never truly be slaves. And your daughter? Hannah. Taiho smiled, but it was a sad smile. She was 6 years old. She had her mother's eyes and her father's stubbornness. She wanted to be a pilot when she grew up. She wanted to fly between the stars. What happened to them? The smile faded. Your empire happened. The Valari fleet came to New Bizen. They gave no warning. They asked no surrender. They simply started burning. My wife and daughter were at home. I was at the military base, 10 kilometers away. I watched the fire fall from the sky. I ran toward them. I ran as fast as I could. But I was too slow. His voice did not break. His eyes did not water. But Yuna could feel something radiating from him now. Not anger. Not hatred. Something deeper and colder and more terrible. I found what was left of our house, Taiho continued. There was nothing left. Just ashes and melted metal. I dug through the ruins with my bare hands until my fingers bled. I found Hannah's favorite toy. A small stuffed animal. A rabbit. It was burned, but I could still tell what it was. He looked at Yuna with his dark, empty eyes. I kept that rabbit. I still have it. Every night, I hold it and I remember. I remember their faces. I remember their voices. I remember the fire. And I make myself a promise. What promise? Yuna whispered. That I will never forget. That I will never forgive. That I will survive long enough to see your empire fall. Not for revenge. Revenge is for the living. My wife and daughter are dead. Nothing will bring them back. But I can make sure their deaths mean something. I can make sure that other children do not burn. Yuna stood up. Her hands were shaking again. She walked to the door of the cell block, then stopped. When your empire falls, Taiho called after her, and it will fall, because all empires fall. Which side of history do you want to be standing on? Yuna did not answer. She walked out of the cell block and went to her quarters. She sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking about burned toys and dead children and the quiet man who refused to break. Outside her window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them, human ships were moving. Human ships with human crews, who had all lost something to the Valari. Human ships that were coming closer every day. Yuna did not know this yet, but she was beginning to suspect. She was beginning to understand that she had not captured a prisoner. She had captured a warning. Why don't you flee, human? Part 4. The execution was scheduled for dawn. Lord Kale had given the order himself. He was a high-ranking Valari lord, old and powerful and cruel. He had noticed Yuna's strange behavior. He had seen her visiting the human prisoner. He did not like it. "The human has corrupted your mind," he told Yuna in his private chamber. "You spend too much time with him. You listen to his poison words. This will stop now." "I was gathering intelligence," Yuna said. "Learning about the enemy. You were being seduced by weakness." Lord Kale's black eyes were cold. "Humans are animals. They are food. They are nothing. Tomorrow, I will execute this human in front of all the prisoners. They will see what happens to those who do not show proper fear. And you will watch." Yuna bowed her head. "Yes, my lord." That night, she went to Taiho's cell one last time. He was sitting in the corner, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He looked peaceful. "They are going to kill you tomorrow," she said. "I know. Are you not afraid?" Taiho opened his eyes. "I have been afraid every day since my family died. Fear is like breathing now. I do not notice it anymore." Yuna pressed her hand against the energy barrier. "I do not want you to die." "Why?" "Because—" She stopped. She did not know how to finish the sentence. Because he had shown her something she had never seen before. Because he had made her question everything she believed. Because somewhere in the past 7 days, she had stopped seeing him as an animal and started seeing him as a person. "Thank you," she finally said. "For the stories." Taiho smiled his sad smile. "Thank you for listening." Yuna walked away. She did not look back. The artificial dawn came 6 hours later. The ship's lights changed from dim blue to bright white. Guards came to Taiho's cell and bound his hands. They marched him to the main hangar, where all the prisoners had been gathered. There were 43 humans left from the mining station. They stood in rows, guarded by Valari soldiers. Many of them were crying. Some were praying. Jiwoo stood near the front, her broken arm in a sling. Sora stood behind her, face blank, trying not to show her feelings. Lord Kale stood on a raised platform at the front of the hangar. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like polished silver. His blade hung at his side. "Humans of the mining station," he announced. "You have been captured by the Valari Empire. You are now property. You will serve us or you will die. There is no other choice." He gestured to Taiho, who was being dragged toward the platform. This human refused to show proper respect. He refused to fear us. He refused to break. So now he will be an example. Watch closely. This is what happens to those who defy the Empire. Taiho was forced to his knees in front of Lord Kale. The Valari Lord drew his blade. It hummed with deadly energy. "Any last words, animal?" Lord Kale asked Te, who looked up at him with calm eyes. "Yes, you should have checked your sensors," Lord Kale frowned. "What?" Then the alarm started screaming. The silent blade shook violently. Explosions echoed through the hull. The lights flickered and turned red. Emergency warnings blared in Valari language. "Breach. Breach. Breach. What is happening?" Lord Kale demanded. A soldier ran onto the platform. "My lord, human ships. They appeared from nowhere. They are boarding us." Lord Kale's face twisted with rage. "Impossible. No human fleet could track us through faster than light travel." "They did not track you," Taiho said. He was smiling now, a real smile, bright and sharp. "They were already here, waiting." The hangar doors exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through the breach. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed with strange light. They moved fast, faster than any Valari expected, taking down guards with deadly precision. They did not yell or scream. They fought in terrible silence. At their head was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. His name was Do Yun. He was the captain of the resistance carrier, the Long Memory. He had been hunting Valari ships for 30 years. He had never lost, Secure the prisoners, Dohyun ordered. Find Tai-ho. The battle was short and brutal. The Valari soldiers fought hard, but they were not prepared for this. They were not prepared for humans who did not run, humans who did not beg, humans who attacked with the focused fury of people who had lost everything and had nothing left to fear. Lord Kale tried to flee. He did not get far. Do-hyun shot him in the leg and left him screaming on the floor. Tai-ho. Do-hyun pushed through the chaos to the platform. He cut Tai-ho's bonds with a quick slash. You took your time with that signal. Tai-ho stood up and rubbed his wrists. I was gathering intelligence. Where's the commander? The female Valari? We have not found her yet. Find her. Do not kill her. She is different. Do-hyun gave him a strange look, but nodded. As you say, in another part of the ship, Yuna was making a choice. Lord Kale had triggered a lockdown before his capture. The prison sections were sealed. The atmosphere systems were set to vent. If nothing was done, every human prisoner in those sections would suffocate in minutes. Yuna stood at a control panel, looking at the override switch. If she pressed it, she would save the humans. But she would also betray her empire. She would become a traitor. Her family would be shamed. Her name would be erased from history. She thought about Tai-ho's question. Which side of history do you want to be standing on? She pressed the switch. The lockdown ended. The atmosphere systems returned to normal. In the prison sections, Jiwoo and Sora and dozens of other humans gasped in relief as the air returned. Yuna turned around and found 3 human soldiers pointing weapons at her. Wait, she said. I am not your enemy. You are Valari, one soldier said. That makes you our enemy. I just saved your people. Check the systems. I stopped the atmospheric purge. The soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. Before they could decide what to do, Tai-ho appeared behind them. Let her go, he said. She is with us now. Commander? Are you sure? Tai-ho looked at Yuna. His dark eyes met her black ones. Yes, I am sure. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Tai-ho walked toward Yuna and stopped in front of her. You asked me why we do not run, he said. I told you we do not leave people behind. That includes you. If you want to come with us, you can. If you want to stay, we will let you go. The choice is yours. Yuna looked around the burning ship. She thought about her empire, her family, her whole life. Then she thought about burned toys and dead children and a quiet man who refused to break. I will come with you, she said. Tai-ho nodded. Welcome to the losing side. Outside the silent blade, the human carrier, the long memory, waited in the darkness. One by one, the survivors made their way to escape pods and shuttles. They left the burning Valari ship behind and flew toward something new, toward hope, toward freedom, toward a future that was not yet written. Yuna sat in a crowded shuttle between Jiwoo and Sora. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know if she would be accepted or hated or feared. But for the first time in her long life, she felt something she had never felt before. She felt like she was on the right side. Why don't you flee, human? Part 5, The Long Memory, was an ugly ship Dawn. It had been built from the wreckage of 100 other ships, welded together with desperate hands and stubborn hope. Its hull was covered with patches and scars. Its engines wheezed and groaned. Its corridors were narrow and cold. But it was home to 347 humans who had nowhere else to go. Now it carried 43 more survivors from the mining station. And one Valari. Yuna stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. 3 days had passed since the rescue. 3 days since she had betrayed everything she knew. The human crew avoided her. They looked at her with fear and hatred in their eyes. She did not blame them. She had been their enemy. Maybe she still was. You should eat something. Yuna turned. Tai-Ho stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of that terrible synthetic coffee. He walked over and offered her one. I do not need food as often as humans, she said. I know, but the coffee is warm. It helps. Yuna took the cup. The metal was hot against her silver fingers. She took a small sip. It tasted like burned metal and sadness. How can you drink this? She asked. Practice. Tai-Ho stood beside her, looking out at the stars. Also, it reminds me of the mining station, of the life I had before everything changed. They stood in silence for a long moment. Yuna tried to feel his emotions with her telepathy. She found only the same quiet emptiness as before. But now she understood it better. It was not emptiness. It was peace. The peace of a man who had already lost everything and had nothing left to fear. Your people hate me, Yuna said quietly. Yes. Do you hate me? Tai-Ho considered the question. I hate what your empire did. I hate that my wife and daughter are dead. I hate that billions of humans burned because the Valari decided we were not worthy of living. He took a sip of his coffee. But I do not hate you. You made a choice. You chose to help. That matters. It does not change what I did before. No, nothing changes the past. But we can change the future. That is all any of us can do. Yuna looked down at her silver hands. Hands that had killed. Hands that had tortured. Hands that had done terrible things in the name of empire and duty and glory. How do you do it? She whispered. How do you keep going when everything is lost? Tai-Ho reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a stuffed rabbit, blackened by fire, barely recognizable. He held it gently, like it was the most precious thing in the universe. My daughter loved this rabbit, he said. She carried it everywhere. She slept with it every night. When I found it in the ashes of my home, I wanted to die. I wanted to lie down and never get up again. He put the rabbit back in his pocket. But then I thought about Yunji, my wife. She would have been angry at me for giving up. She believed in teaching. She believed in passing knowledge to the next generation. She would have said that as long as I was alive, I had a responsibility to keep going, to remember, to teach others what we lost. And that is enough? Yuna asked. Memory? Memory is everything. Tai-Ho turned to look at her. The Valari think power is about weapons and ships and conquest. But real power is about what you remember, what you refuse to forget. Humans have been telling stories since we lived in caves. We have been passing down knowledge for 100,000 years. Every time we lose something, we remember it. Every person who dies becomes part of our collective memory. They live on in our stories, our songs, our hearts. He put his hand on her shoulder. It was a gentle touch, warm and human. Your empire is 3,000 years old. Ours is much younger. But our memory is older than your empire will ever be. That is why you cannot beat us. You can kill us. You can burn our worlds. You can scatter us to the stars. But you cannot make us forget. And as long as we remember, we will fight. Yuna felt something wet on her face. She touched her cheek and found tears. She had not cried in 100 years. She did not know Valari could still cry. I do not know who I am anymore, she said. Then you have a chance to decide, Tai-Ho replied. That is more than most people get. A week later, the long memory reached a hidden station in the outer territories. It was a meeting point for the human resistance, a place where survivors gathered to share information and plan their next moves. Captain Dong-Hyun called a meeting of all ship commanders. There were 12 ships in total, carrying almost 3,000 humans. It was not an army. It was barely a fleet. But it was something. We have a message to send, Do-Hyun said. A message to the Valari Empire. A message to every human hiding in the dark. It is time they heard our voice. Taiho stood up. In his hand, he held a small recording device. I would like to make the broadcast, he said. If you allow it. He nodded. Speak for us all. The broadcast was sent on every frequency. It reached Valari ships and human colonies and space stations throughout the galaxy. Millions of beings heard it. Billions more would hear it in the days to come. Taiho's face appeared on screens everywhere. Behind him stood the survivors of the mining station, including Yuna and Sora. He looked into the camera with his dark, calm eyes and spoke. To the Valari Empire. You have hunted us for generations. You have burned our worlds. You have killed our families. You have called us animals and prey and food. You asked us why we do not flee. You asked us why we do not beg. He paused. Behind him, the humans stood tall. Even Yuna stood with them, silver skin gleaming among the brown and black and white. Here is your answer. We do not flee because we have already lost everything. We do not beg because begging has never saved us. We are humanity. We have survived ice and fire and war and plague. We have buried our dead on 1,000 worlds, and we are still here. We will always be here. His voice grew stronger. You think you are hunters. You think you are predators. You are wrong. You are just another challenge. Another test. Another extinction event for us to survive. And we will survive you. We have been learning to survive for 200,000 years. Your empire has only existed for 3. He leaned forward, and his eyes seemed to burn through the screen. The question you should be asking is not why we do not run. The question is, why have you not started running yet? Because we are coming. We are coming for our stolen children. We are coming for our burned worlds. We are coming for every life you took. Not for revenge. Revenge is for the living. We come for something greater. We come so that our children and their children and all the generations to come will never have to fear you again. He stepped back. The humans behind him raised their fists in the air. We are humanity. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we never, ever give up. Run while you can. The broadcast ended. In the observation deck of the long memory, Yuna watched the stars with new eyes. She thought about everything she had lost. Her empire, her family, her identity. But she also thought about everything she had gained. A new purpose, new friends, a chance to be better than she was before Taeho appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. Welcome to the losing side, he said, repeating the words from before. We have better stories. Yuna took the cup. She looked at the ugly, patched, beautiful ship around her. She looked at the humans who had lost everything and refused to give up. She looked at Taiho, the quiet man who had been bait and became something more. I think, she said slowly, that I would like to hear those stories. Taiho smiled. For the first time since his family died, it was not a sad smile. Then sit down, he said. We have time. Outside, the stars burned on. Somewhere in the darkness, Valari commanders watched the human broadcast and felt something they had never felt before. Fear, real fear. The fear of prey that realizes it has become the hunted. The war was far from over. Many battles would come. Many people would die. The future was uncertain and dangerous and full of pain. But for now, on a small, ugly ship in the middle of nowhere, humans and one Valari sat together and shared stories. They drank bad coffee. They remembered the dead. They planned for the living. And they refused to give up, because that is what survivors do.